So in case you have specific questions for other countries, please reach out to your Ecolab contact person. So, some practical things about this webinar. All participants will be muted automatically. So there's not a possibility to directly interact with the conversation. However, you are able to post questions with this on the right side screen where you can post your questions. We try to cover the questions at the end of the call, but as we have more than 400 participants in the WebEx, it could be that we are not covering all the questions. And please note that after the webinar, we will follow up individually on the questions and we will get back to you. So please share your questions with us and we try to cover them in the call. Otherwise, we'll come back to you after the webinar. This session will be recorded and we expect that the session will take approximately 50 minutes to maximum 1 hour. So maybe let's first introduce myself and also the other presenters today. My name is Reindert Baars. I will be the host of this webinar. I'm working in the textile care market for more than 20 years and I joined Ecolab almost 5 years ago. My role is Director Marketing for the Textile Care Division in Europe. I'm Dutch, as you might hear, and my education is I'm an industrial engineer. The first speaker of this morning will be Dr. Matthias Hofmann. He's our Global Vice President, Research and Development and Engineering for Textile Care. He has more than 15 years experience in the textile care market, and he holds a PhD in organic synthetic chemistry. The second speaker this morning will be Amélie Lespine. Amélie is Portfolio Manager, EMEA and Asia. She's more than 13 years with Ecolab, and she's a chemical engineer. Amélie is our leading program development manager for the healthcare segment, including disinfection topics. The third speaker this morning will be Heike Kropf. Heike is marketing manager for Nordics and the UK and Ireland. Is more than 29 years with Ecolab and is textile engineer by education. And the last speaker this morning will be Frank Everts. Frank Everts is training and safety manager for Textile Care Europe. He's more than 35 years with Ecolab, all these years in the Textile Care division in different roles: sales, application, research, and training and safety. Maybe to start with, Ecolab's mission is to protect people and while we protect people, protect vital resources. And protecting people has never been more actual and vital than today. The coronavirus and also the related COVID-19 disease has impacted countries, regions, families, individuals, and also impacts economies and different sectors: healthcare, hospitality, hotels, restaurants, as well as industries. And with that, it's also impacting our textile care market and the laundries. So now the market is reopening. We would like to share with you today during this webinar some insights on COVID-19, but also how we can support you while reopening the market and keep people safe and protected. The objectives of today's webinar are listed in this overview. So we would like to share with you some essential knowledge about COVID-19. Then we would like to provide guidance and practical insights about how to reopen and run safely your laundry operation by protecting textiles, by protecting your facilities, and also protecting people. And today we are launching our Protex 360 Laundry Protection Program, which is actually developed in order to support you while reopening the market, and has all, I would say, support materials in it to help you communicating and securing safety. This to minimize the risk for your employees, but also for your customers, and maximize customer information and confidence. And at the end, to be safe and stay protected. Having said that, I would like to hand over to Matthias Hofman. So we will have 4 blocks. Matthias will be starting with COVID-19, and then we will cover the topics textile protection, facility, and people protection. And then at the end of the webinar, we have time to cover questions. Matthias, can I hand over to you?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Reindert, for the kind introduction and for allowing me the opportunity to be one of the panelists in today's webinar. So once again, my name is Matthias Hofmann. I'm German. I'm globally leading the R&D department in Ecolab's Textile Care division. I'm with Ecolab for approximately 4 years now, and I'm joining this webinar today from my home office, which is south of Munich in Bavaria, Germany. So this first section will serve as an introduction mainly. I will recap some basic facts about the coronavirus, starting with what it actually is, how it spreads, explain its structure and how it replicates, in order to also then understand the mechanism, how to be able to inactivate it. Coronaviruses are a very large family of viruses, ranging from the common flu to other known and more severe diseases. And you will likely remember MERS, which is the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, first found in 2012, and of course SARS, or in the new nomenclature SARS-CoV-1, which was even back in 2002. Now SARS-CoV-2 is a new strain of this virus that has not been previously identified in humans, but a lot of the information that we have today points to the fact and the belief that it was passed on by bats. The infectious disease caused by this virus is called COVID-19. Until today, close to 7 million cases have been reported in 188 countries, resulting in roughly 400,000 deaths, and at least nearly 3 million patients have recovered by today. Before we move on, I have a poll question for you to start with, and I would like to ask you to submit your answer on the right side of the screen. So we've likely all heard somewhere already that the SARS-CoV-2 virus is a so-called enveloped virus. But what does that actually mean, and which virus is more resistant? An enveloped one or a naked or non-enveloped one? And I give you some time to submit your answer on the right side of the screen. And while you're still doing that, I would slowly move on to the next slide and take a look at the world of viruses. So, presently more than 5,000 of those microscopic organisms have been identified. They are between 10 and 100 times smaller than bacteria, and technically they are no living organism. That means they need a host cell for replication. Every virus has a genome, which is a nucleic acid, that is enclosed within a protein coat, referred to as a capsid. And based on their outer structure, viruses can be categorized into enveloped and non-enveloped, as just said. So the non-enveloped viruses are surrounded by this protein coating, the capsid, which, together with the attached spikes, does the job of attaching to host cells. They can be very heat resistant and can easily withstand even dry and acidic environments. They can also survive in insufficient disinfection processes, actually. So, which essentially means that the virus remains active and infectious even in those harsh conditions. Enveloped viruses too have a protein coat, but this capsid is encased with an outer lipid membrane. It is a lipid envelope that allows the virus to firmly stick to its target cell, also with the viral ligands or spikes. They cannot tolerate hot temperatures, and they are also sensitive to dry conditions. In the end, this envelope does two things. As we'll see on the next slide then, it makes it very adaptive to host cells, and it can easily penetrate into them. So this is also the main reason that all recent viruses that were a threat to mankind are enveloped viruses, like hepatitis B or C, HIV, Ebola, or SARS-CoV-2. So the viral genetic material is still around when the envelope is destroyed, but the destruction of the envelope means that the viral ligand is taken away. So the virus is inactivated and it cannot infect a human host cell anymore. So in the end, the envelope also makes this kind of viruses easier to kill. Remember the poll question. Other microbes like larger viruses, bacteria, fungi, mycobacteria, and of course also spores are much more resilient to biocides and much harder to kill. So, last virology part, but still very important to understand. Picture 1. With the ligands or spikes of the lipid envelope, the virus binds or absorbs to the preferential pore channels of the human cell. Then in 2, the envelope more or less melts together with the human cell wall and the virus is dragged in, or better, the virus genome enters the human cell. 3. The virus genome then also leaves the protein capsid behind, which is called uncoating. 4. The genome is then transcribed using the human cell's own replication system. So basically our cells are hijacked by the virus. And then 5, the host cells then form new virions, and those are released and expelled and use the human cell wall components to form the new envelope. This is what I meant when I said the virus is pretty adaptive and in the end, therefore very infectious. With this, back to much more commonly known facts. The symptoms typically start with fever, cough, shortness of breath, and trouble breathing, which makes it tricky as those do not differ too much from the common flu. But as we all know, the progression of the disease can also be much more severe. And how does the virus spread from one infected person to another? Through the air, for example, by coughing or sneezing, which is why we are wearing mouth and nose protection. By close personal contact, which is why we avoid shaking hands or even hugging. And also by touching objects or surfaces with the virus on it, and then touching your own mouth, nose, or eyes, which is why we should avoid to do so and wash our hands more often. But Frank is going to come back to this in the safety part 4 of this webinar. So what have we seen throughout the last month? Or better not seen, because somehow it felt like somebody pushed a big pause button. We have been facing issues with raw material supplies, and no international business travel was possible anymore, because 16,000 airplanes have been parked globally. But we've also seen a reduction in emissions and clear skies at the same time. We've seen empty cities for quite a while. We were all staying home, and about 250 million vehicles have stopped driving on our streets in Europe, and even animals were spotted in some cities instead. It has become very familiar to see people in the streets, shops, and public transportation wearing face masks, and we need no less than 2.7 million pieces every day. And about 100,000 restaurants were closed in Europe alone. So the life as we know it has changed. Is this a very severe impact in our lives and a serious situation? Yes, I think so. But it's unlikely to be the end of all days. And since a while, we see shops reopening, streets that get slowly, sometimes even too fast, crowded with people again, associates starting to return to the offices, beer gardens and restaurants opening up again. And next week, the European borders are likely to be reopened without the requirement to go on quarantine for 14 days when crossing between countries. We all don't know what is going to be next, but we're in this together. And in the process of reopening our world again, we need to do it as safe as possible. And my colleagues will show you in the next section what Ecolab can do to help your operations to deliver your part. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthias, and thanks for giving this insight on COVID-19 and the characteristics of this enveloped virus. So if we look at the program, I would like to hand over now to Amélie Lespine to take us through how to protect the textiles. Amélie, can I hand over to you?
Yes, thanks, Reinder. So good morning from Paris to everybody. So I'm doing this webinar from a home office located in Paris. So we've seen that this virus has affected us in many ways. And I think that one of them is the fact that a lot of people who had little knowledge about disinfection had suddenly to dive into this complex topic. So here I would like to give you some highlights of what are the most important things to know in order to protect your textiles. And I will begin with the fact that there are 3 main types of microbes. So viruses, bacteria, and fungi, all divided into subcategories that I won't go in detail. And you've heard very well from Matthias that for virus, enveloped and non-enveloped species will behave differently towards disinfectant, temperature, pH, and so on. And that's the case also for other organisms. Virus, bacteria, and fungi have different behavior towards disinfectant, temperature, and so on. And what does it mean? It means that even if your process will kill bacteria, it does not necessarily mean that it will kill a virus. And it will not necessarily mean that it will kill fungi. So it's really important to have it in mind, to be aware of that. And that when you talk about disinfection, you clearly state what is your target microorganism. Then when we talk about disinfection for textile during the wash, we have two options, thermal or chemothermal disinfection. So thermal disinfection, you know, you rely on time and temperature. But there are no European standards for thermal disinfection, which means that there are no guidelines on what are the microbes you need to kill, what types of microbes you need to kill, and the killing rate that you need to achieve. Therefore, you can see that you have many different conditions depending on the countries. You have an example here below between UK and Germany. And so if you want to go for thermal disinfection, it's important that you check that your target microorganisms are killed by the conditions you are going to use. So for thermal disinfection, on top of time and temperature, you use chemicals and you use a disinfectant. We also call it a biocide. This is highly regulated in Europe. So if you want to use a biocide in a country, first you need to do a local registration, and you have different level of registration depending on the countries. And when you use a claim, an efficacy claim with a biocide, you always need to support your claim with tests. And so for that, we have European standards which are available for each type of microorganisms. So bacteria, virus, fungi, and so on. And those norms are listed in the EN 14885 norm. And you can see that in this norm, that for virus, the reference norm for disinfection is the EN 14476. And also, when we talk about chemothermal disinfection, we can talk about the German standards, which are also used in other countries. In Germany, when you process hospital linen, you need to disinfect it with a process which has been certified and registered at VAH or RKI, Robert Koch Institute. And in 2 words, I will tell you about BPR because I think that lately you may have heard a lot about BPR. I won't go in details because it would require a dedicated webinar. But so BPR stands for Biocide Product Regulation. So this regulation will come in place, will be enforced gradually, or is already started, but will be enforced gradually. And this regulation goal is to replace the local regulation around biocides and to harmonize the use of biocide across Europe, and also to protect the environment and people. And for me, one of the main points of the biocide regulation is that it will help clarify how to use a biocide. Because if you think that using a biocide is sufficient to fully, if you say, okay, I use a biocide, I fully protect my textile, it's not completely accurate. Because a biocide, efficient against what? Virus, bacteria, fungi, and under which condition? A biocide is not universally efficient. It's efficient on specific germs in specific use conditions. So it's important to be aware of that. And for textile disinfection, the use conditions are time, temperature, dosages, and bath ratio. So if you want to have a certified chemical process, you need to make sure that you respect those 4 parameters, which needs to be provided by your chemical supplier. So then, if you want to have a full textile protection. So you can use a certified chemical process. And in the case of the SARS-CoV-2, you need to use a virucidal process. So a certified process either with the EN 14476 or a process which has been registered at VH or RKI with virucidal activity. But it's not enough, because at some point you can have some process failures. And so by process failure, I mean you can have a problem with your temperature because the heating valve is not working. You can have a dosing issue that, or whatever, you can maybe also a problem with the water level, anything that can affect your disinfection performance. Also, if you're using a tunnel, you have the risk to have a recontamination in the rinse. So again, it can come from various reasons. Maybe your fresh water is contaminated, or the hygiene in this area is not properly maintained. So it means that on top of a certified process, to guarantee a good disinfection, you need to do regular controls. And here you can do some biocontrols, what we call biocontrols, to make sure that everything works fine and to alert you in case there is a deviation. So in terms of biocontrols, in the laundry, what we routinely use today, I could tell you about 3 things: bioindicators, product plates, and rinse water analysis if you have a tunnel. So bioindicators, I don't know if you know what those are. So it's some textile carriers which are contaminated by bacteria at different levels, so up to 7 log. You pass them on the wash process, the disinfecting process you would like to qualify. And then after 1 wash, you send it for analysis, and it will give you the reduction rate of this process on this bacteria. So it will give you a first indication. Then you can use Wodak plates, or we call it also sometimes Petri dishes. So you can use it on wet textiles or on dry textiles. And they will give you an indication of the contamination at the surface of the textile you test. And so in case of high contamination, it will give you an alert that you may have an issue with your process. It can also be the case that the textile has been contaminated afterwards. And then you can use also rinse water analysis. So it's the same principle. You will look at the contamination level of your water in the rinsing zone. And if you have a high contamination, you know that there is something wrong with your disinfection process. Or you can have also a recontamination in the rinse. So that will help you monitor your disinfection. Now, in some countries, we know that laundries only rely on biocontrols and on their quality management system to validate the disinfection. So they don't use certified processes, only relying on biocontrols. Also, it's the case for hospitality laundries, where disinfection has never really been a requirement until now. The thing is, this approach, especially in the current context, has its limitation, because it will give you no indication on virus. They mainly focus on bacteria. So what does that mean? It means that if you want to be able to certify disinfection and a textile protection against COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, you need to implement a process which is virucidal, certified as virucidal, and you need to implement the biocontrols. So in this context, where people are seeking for protection and reassurance, you may have to go 1 step further and implement higher standard of disinfection. And that's where we can help you and support. So we already started to do it with some of our customers. We can help you implement processes which are certified against SARS-CoV-2 and communicate, give you some support communication for your customers and end users. So we have some support materials available for that. And on top of that, we can help you, assist you in implementing contamination control and extra safety procedure for the wash area, but also beyond the wash area. And that's what Heike will be telling you about. Thank you.
Thanks, Amelie. I think it's important to understand that the current practices are not automatically covering virucidal efficacy. I think that's the key message, and thanks for sharing that with us. So as Amelie already referred to that, the next topic covered by Heike is the how to protect facilities. And can I hand over to you, Heike?
Yes, of course. Hello, good morning from my side. My name is Heike Kropf. I'm German, and I'm based in our German headquarters in Monheim, close to Düsseldorf. Today is my first day in the office here after the lockdown, and after the virus background from Matthias and disinfection topic from Amelie, let's see what is important for reopening or continuing business after the virus outbreak. We should keep also the laundry environment clean. That means facility hygiene. I would like to start with a question to you. What do you think? How many surfaces in average touches a person within 30 minutes? On the right-hand side, you can find again this poll option where you can answer this question. We have prepared 3 options for you, and now you can vote. I see the first answers coming in. Let's wait a moment more to capture some more estimations. So in average, a person touches 300 surfaces in 30 minutes. That means 10 per minute or 1 within 6 seconds. And we all know that in the laundry is done a lot of handwork. Therefore, it is important also to keep an eye on high-touch areas in the laundry, because we want to keep the disinfected and cleaned linen clean and safe. And we like to avoid contamination after a proper washing process. We can divide a laundry into 5 different areas with different requirements. First one is the soiled linen area. Here textiles coming in are soiled and could be contaminated probably. And we could also have an unwanted spreading of bacteria or viruses. And the second area, it's the clean area pre-drying. Textiles are wet and leaving the washing machine and sorted by hand and distributed into different finishing areas. From here, we want to keep the disinfected or hygienic status of all the linen. Then we have number 3, that's our clean area finishing. This is the latest operational area in a laundry before textiles leaving the plant to the end customer. And they want to have clean and safe textiles with a good quality. All those areas are relevant for textile protection, because here are the textiles treated. All other areas in the plant, like floors, desks in the offices, sanitary areas, canteens, or social rooms, let's summarize this under building care. And these are all the places where people stay during the day and also during the breaks. And last but not least, our people working in the laundry. And if you remember, they touch nearly 5,000 surfaces during one shift with their hands. So hands are important, and they wear also working garments as well. Why do we need a hygiene plan? So a hygiene plan covers all the 5 areas I have described before. And the purpose of a hygiene plan is to manage hygiene within a laundry. And Amelie has talked about textile disinfection, but we need to extend hygiene also to surfaces and people's hands. A hygiene plan gives a guidance on critical areas. It should optimize and adapt cleaning protocols for all laundry areas. We can divide a hygiene plan into 3 blocks: textile protection, people protection, and facility protection. This plan works beyond washing and makes the difference for an efficient operation. It considers everything what is happening around washing of textiles in a very clear structure. Now you can see the layout of a hygiene plan. It contains all the items to clean as a description and a picto, because in laundries we have sometimes to deal with multilingual employees. Next to it, we show the frequency of cleaning. Some items need to be cleaned at the end of a shift, others on a daily or weekly basis, depending on the function. We list also the name of the cleaning products. Based on the purpose, there are different products for different cleaning items. Some of the proposed products are combined cleaning and disinfection products, others have only disinfection properties. This is the reason why we have also different instructions on the next slide, on the next column, sorry. Perhaps alcohol-based products dry automatically. Other cleaning and disinfection products may need a rinsing step. For a reliable surface disinfection, also parameters are defined as concentration and contact time. This is also different from product to product and needs to be fulfilled to guarantee a successful hygiene in a laundry. And finally, we have listed the responsible person as well. For all the 5 earlier mentioned laundry areas, we have created a separate one-page plan. Here you can see an example of the soiled linen area. In total, we have nearly 40 places defined which should be taken in consideration. Here you can see perhaps control panels, conveyor belt, water tanks, and also trolleys. The idea behind is to print a separate plan in a large format like A3 and hang them up in the respective laundry areas. We would ensure that we have all relevant information and that every team member can read it. Here's another example for the finishing area. Here we have listed all work surfaces, storage shelves, and also the trucks, because they deliver first soiled linen to a laundry, and then after the washing process, before they distribute the clean linens to hotels and hospitals, etc., they should be cleaned as well. This hygiene plan is now updated and harmonized in the same layout for 27 countries in Europe. Amelie has explained to you that we have different levels of registration requirements in the countries, and we have here now developed a tool which fulfills all the requirements to the current COVID-19 situation. So it means we have really for each and every country products listed which fulfill this requirement. And we are able to provide exactly this format, what you can see here, in all European laundries in the same design. We have improved it and revised the whole approach based on the current situation. In total, we have 5 different pages to be exposed in the laundry wherever needed. Of course, all employees in the laundry should be trained on the hygiene procedures, on the surface and hand cleaning and disinfection products, and the relevant operational steps. They need to know how to use the product and how to clean every surface. Your local Ecolab contact could help you in case of questions or if you need support. The cleaning procedures are different in all areas. Perhaps the soiled linen area, here is the focus more on surfaces and combination of cleaning and disinfection. Whether in the clean area, pre-drying, or in the finishing area, focus is more on disinfection only because textiles are already clean. But all the steps are detailed described in the hygiene plan and should be exposed where needed. In addition to our hygiene plan, we have also some visual wall charts, perhaps for hand disinfection or disinfection of hard surfaces or hand wash. And for the laundries, mainly in the hospitality area, means washing hotel and restaurant linen, we have prepared also some checklists for the reopening. We have listed all important steps for a restart of the operation after some weeks of closure and to limit the risk of further COVID-19 issues. For further support, reach out to your local Ecolab contact. Perhaps they can help you to deliver a tailor-made individual plan for your laundry based on your specific needs. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Heike, sharing this with us. And I think it's important to know that we have, as Heike said, these materials available for you in all these countries as mentioned. So we have covered COVID-19, we have covered textile protection, and now we have covered how to protect the facility. I would like to hand over now to Frank to share with us how we can best protect our people.
Yes, thank you, Reindert. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you can hear me and see me clearly. I have the opportunity right now to talk about how to keep the people safe in your operations. So the next slide will show you what are the important items over here, and you see the pictures on the left-hand side. And we know already how important it is to consult a doctor when being sick or even staying at home. Even sometimes you have to stay in quarantine when you have been affected. You know that we do not want to touch hands to others. We know that we are wearing masks, and also how important it is to clean our hands and also to sanitize surfaces, as you have heard from my colleagues. But there may be some additional items that I would like to invite you to consider. Like, for instance, if you have a lot of visitors to your plant, it may be reasonable to even restrict the access of visitors. This is just for the reason in order to minimize the risk of germ transfer coming into your plant where you handle sensitive linen. And another objective could be even when you receive customers to think about spatial separation by, for instance, using transparent screens. I believe that all of us have seen those kind of screens when we go for shopping, when we go for supermarkets, when we are at the cash, and so on. And interestingly, I have seen such a picture on an internet page where transparent screens were actually placed at the feeding station of an ironer in a laundry. And they are supposed to help to separate the operators in order to avoid germ transfer from one person to another one. So, but not only this one is an important thing, but also, as we know, and as we are all getting used to, whether voluntarily or not, is actually the different types of masks that we're used to right now. And so all of us have seen and probably also are using so-called community masks. You don't see them on the picture over there. And usually many of them, they are self-made. Some of them, they are really nice and even sometimes funny. And also they help to reduce the transfer from airborne particles from one person to another one. And of course, they provide also a better feeling for me. So when I'm using a mask and others using a mask, then it helps to feel me safer. But they are still important in combination with distancing to others. So keeping the distance to other people in public area is still important over there. Now I would like to talk about those masks that you see there on the screen. On the top of those, you see so-called surgical masks or barrier masks, which are very often used in healthcare environments. They are a medical device. So that means they are regulated in Europe, and they have basically the function of protecting others from me. So this is not basically in order to protect me, but it helps others to protect me from releasing droplets. Well, the good thing about this one is everybody is using this kind of mask in an environment, whether it is in a laundry or in public places or even in public transport. then it is effective and everybody will be protected if they are all using this kind of mask. The second one that you see on the bottom of the screen, this is part of the personal protective equipment. And personal protective equipment, or PPE, basically means it's there in order to protect me. And there are different types of these masks actually available, and you see that on the left-hand side besides the picture. They are sometimes called FFP2 or FFP3 or N95. FFP actually means filtering face piece, and this is what the mask does. Actually, it filters the air before I'm inhaling this. And the number behind the FFP is actually the class of protection. In Europe, the FFP2 is sufficient against viruses. Sometimes also FFP3 is used. And the N95, this is a standard which is used very often in the United States and sometimes also in other countries. Again, we must not forget that the personal protective equipment is actually used in order to protect us from viruses, which are basically airborne particles. Yeah, you see some funny pictures over there, and basically I believe that all of us have seen those pictures. Many people are using their mask in quite a very special way, sometimes a very funny way. However, of course, there is only one real way, one correct and appropriate way to use such a mask. And this is actually depicted by the icon that you can see on the right-hand side. However, before moving forward right now, I would just like to draw your attention what happens when we dispose of the mask, meaning when we take it off. We have to consider that the mask may be contaminated, which means that when we have removed the mask, hand washing is absolutely essential. And here you see some items about the proper hand hygiene, how to wash the hands. So you would really think, okay, what is new about there on this hand washing thing? Basically, I don't believe it's very new over there, but at least it's very important to scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds. Well, how do you know that it is 20 seconds? Of course, you can count from 1 to 20, but there's a much easier and funnier way. Did you know that 20 seconds is about the time that you use in order to sing the happy birthday song twice? And now I'm talking about the entire happy birthday song. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing it right now. But if you sing the happy birthday song twice, this is about 20 seconds. Isn't this a good way to remember? So, and after scrubbing, you need to rinse off your hands under clean running water, of course. And finally, when you dry your hands with a towel, it's also a good idea that you turn off the tap with the towel to leave it nice and shiny and clean, and to avoid the risk of germ transfer from there. So these are all very, very important items, but I mean, it could also be sometimes that hand washing is not always available, and then it comes to skin disinfectant. So we need to disinfect our hands regularly. Sometimes when there is no soap available, but also in a laundry when we are touching clean linen. Like Heike explained, we have done a big job in order to clean and to disinfect the linen, but we are still touching those with our hands, meaning we have to disinfect our hands. And specifically nowadays in the COVID-19 area, this has become very, very crucial, as we have seen every day. And this actually has led to a big, big challenge, because the demand for skin disinfectant and surface disinfectant has increased by 14 times compared to the time before the pandemic. Can you imagine what this means? So, and how is it possible to satisfy such a demand? Well, these pictures, they should indicate what has happened at Ecolab at our production facilities, actually. So we had to ramp up our production, and also sometimes we had to modify our production. And this has led to the fact that some production facilities that were not doing disinfectant before, we have modified their plants in order to meet the huge demand that was actually there. And you see the people in the production facilities who were doing a really huge job in order to ramp up all the production and to be able to meet the demand. And this has led to the fact that even some of my sales colleagues and some of my colleagues from the offices, they went to production plants in order to help them to produce the huge demand that was really required over there. So this has led right now that we are able to increase the facility and the demand by 7 times compared to what was run before the pandemic. And we even contacted distilleries, so wine and whiskey distilleries, in order to be able to get the ethanol, because even the pharma grade ethanol was short of supplies. So you see many things have going on in order that we were able to meet the demand. And even in these times, so in the peak times of the COVID-19 area, we were asked by local country government organizations to supply them with the critical products like hand sanitizers and surface sanitizers, and critical infrastructure need to be supplied like hospitals, military, and so on. So a lot of things have happened during the last couple of weeks, and we are quite happy that we are staying on top of all of this and are able to meet the demand. Finally, what else needs to be done in order to prepare for reopening? There are 3 things. Heike has already mentioned the checklists, and the checklists, they help you not to forget any critical areas, to cover all parts and items. And when handling chemicals, detergents, washing chemicals, cleaning chemicals, be sure that your associates have all the personal protective equipment that they need. And the most important information is what you find on the safety data sheet. Last but not least, make sure that your associates have the skills and knowledge in order to perform all of these activities. And I know that some of you in the call right now, I have met you personally in some trainings, and you all know that we offer a lot of trainings. And this is basically what we are happy to help you in these areas to cover all of this, what my colleagues and me talked about. And that's basically what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, Reinhard.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for sharing these insights on personal protection, how to keep our people safe. And with that, we have covered the 4 blocks as we have indicated before. I think we have still 10 minutes for some questions. I have to improvise it a little bit here, but I think before doing that, we refer to it a couple of times during the session. Please note that we have developed this Protex 360 laundry protection program, which is actually built on 5 pillars. All support material and information and documentation about washing solutions, the hygiene plans that Heike was talking about, also support and service and expertise around hygiene. Also, the part that was covered by Amelie, how we do the biocontamination control and RABC, and of course, all training materials and support are in there. So I think in the next slide, you see also the materials, so brochures, documentation on the wash processes that you might be willing to use, also the hygiene plans. But maybe on the right bottom part, I think it's interesting to mention, we have received a lot of requests from our customers if we can support also end customer communication to really build confidence at the end customers. Could be patients in the hospital, could be guests in a hotel. So we also have communication material available in order to support you in communicating this confidence, but also communicate this in a transparent way. Having said that, I think there is then still some time for questions. I would like to invite my colleagues. I would like to invite my colleagues to be on the video and see if we can. And for sure, I can already tell you that we will not be able to cover all the questions in this call. We will reach out to you after the call, but nevertheless, I think we have some interesting questions which are interesting to share and also maybe ask the colleagues to answer. I have here actually 2 similar questions on low temp, one raised by Derek, and I will not specify the specific company, but Derek from Ireland, and actually the same type of question also raised by Rayu from the United Arab Emirates, and actually it's about low temperature, and maybe Amelie and or Matthias, maybe you can answer that. Can textiles be treated against coronavirus at lower temperatures? And then one of the questions was stating below 50 degrees C. So I will repeat to give you some time. Can textiles be treated against coronavirus at lower temperatures? And Amelie or Matthias, maybe Amelie, can you give your view?
Sure. I will. So yes, we have process certified against viruses, so including coronavirus, at temperature between 40 and 80 degrees. So we have solution, yes, below 50, so at 40 degrees. And we have solutions including programs for delicate linen. But I think here you mentioned that one person was from Middle East. Huh?
Yes. So, Rayu from United Arab Emirates, yes.
Okay. So then you need to check with your local contact what are the solutions available in this region. But we will support you. We have to see more specifically what are the requirements, and we will support them.
Okay, thanks, Amelie. Then second question from the Netherlands, Peter. How long, and now I have to, maybe Matthias or Amelie, maybe you can answer this question. How long will COVID-19 or the coronavirus stay alive on textiles?
I can try to answer this one. So surfaces are very different, of course, and there's a multitude of surfaces around us. I mean, there's one study I know of on medical gowns that is showing that the virus is active on those for 2 days. But throughout the literature, I've also seen other values with up to 5 days. So all in all, and again, depending very much on the structure of the surface and also on the environment, like temperature and humidity, I would say that 2 days is likely a good average, but it can be more in more seldom cases. I think that knowledge base is also not large enough.
Thanks, Matthias. Then we have, but I think we have covered that question from David from the UK and a separate question from Michael from the UK. If we have support material to communicate with customers, hotels, etc. Yes, I think we have covered that. And then two questions here, and maybe we can combine it also because of time. Sorry, Frank, to put you a little bit on the spot here. Two questions related to safety. Do people have to wear face mask in the dirty area? Question, and I will combine it with the second question. How to handle in a safe way all, and maybe you covered that also partly, all external people visiting the laundry. So I will repeat. Do people have to wear face masks in the dirty area? And how to handle in a safe way all external people visiting the laundry? Frank.
Okay, I will try to answer. So first on the face mask in the dirty area. So actually, I believe this depends on the risk assessment. A risk assessment is always a good tool in order to identify what kind of tasks are happening, first on which place, and second, also on which kind of linen I'm handling. There's a difference whether I'm handling healthcare linen from a hospital or probably handling linen from workwear or from a hospitality area. It's all about the likelihood and the likelihood of the spreading of the germs and also the amount of linen. So risk assessment will help you to identify. It gives you additional needs and tools in order to define the measures that could be important to basically to make a decision about this one. A general statement is not possible, but a risk assessment is always a good thing. Second, how to handle, the question was about how to handle external people visiting laundries, Reinhard, is that correct?
Yes, how to handle in a safe way all external people visiting the laundry. Yes.
I believe this is very similar to what we do in public places. It's basically all about distancing. So we should not work all together. It's different from country to country. Some say 1.5 meters, some say 1 meter, some say 2 meters. And it's always so, make sure that the people do not have crossroads, make sure that people are distancing to each other. Sometimes we need to have physical barriers, sometimes we need transparent screens, and also make sure that people know where to go, help them for cleaning their hands, for washing their hands, using the right skin disinfectant. I believe that this is something which will guide you in the right direction when having visitors into your plants.
Thanks, Frank. I look at my watch, and I think, as mentioned before, we have not been able to cover all your questions in this webinar. We will reach out to you separately and respond to your mail address, answering the questions. And in case you have additional questions after the webinar, please reach out to us, to your Ecolab contact person. So yeah, I think we are almost at the end of this webinar. I would like to thank Matthias, Amelie, Heike, and Frank for doing this webinar together with me. As mentioned, all the materials and I would say the Protex 360 laundry protection program covering textiles, facility, and also people. All these materials are available on our website, but also reach out for support to your Ecolab contact person. After closing of this webinar, there will be a questionnaire. We ask you to give us your feedback on this webinar, also as input maybe for future webinars. So I think we are at the end of this webinar now. I would like to thank you for your attendance, and be safe and stay protected. Thank you.